Hey there, welcome back. Welcome back to this series, which is basically a diary of my journey, how I got here, how I figured things out, and how I'm doing things moving forward and coping with depression on a day-to-day basis. Just want to reiterate, I'm not a healthcare professional in any way whatsoever. This is very much in the style of an Al-Anon meeting where you sit around, people talk what they've been through, how they coped with it, what they're going through. And you pick tidbits that resonate with you. And I think it activates your mind in a different way and allows you a slightly different perspective to try and figure things out. I hope the sound's okay because the AC just kicked on, it's getting hot. So in the last video we went through who I am and how I got here, basically. And what was a large cause of the depression. Who knows if it's the total cause and whether I was just susceptible to it anyway. We'll never know that answer. So before I saw my first therapist, I was just going through life in this numb way. I had judgment of the relationships with my family and other people that had happened up until that point in my life, but I didn't know how they'd affected me because I wasn't really aware of my condition. One thing I said about the Kershaw smile is it fools everybody else, but fooled me, completely fooled me. I did not know what I was suffering from. I really did not know. That smile got me through. So back to perceptions of relationships. When I started seeing that first therapist, he started questioning my kind of recollections and judgment. Obviously two main people involved in my life. One who I had completely blamed, which was, to a portion, blame to that person was appropriate, due to alcoholism and all that kind of stuff, and the effects of that. The other person I had put on a pedestal and was living 100% that life code. Obviously I'm talking about my father with that. Obviously I have my beliefs about both my parents. I don't really want to go worldwide and start blabbing about them because there's a certain amount of privacy I want to maintain. And I also have opinions on how I think they should have lived their lives differently and how I think they could have helped themselves, but it's all my opinion. So I had this life code that was just in me, indoctrinated into me, which was very much about isolation, self-reliance in a really broken way, and not engaging with the Kershaw smile on the surface, but not really engaging with anybody. Obviously creating a huge problem with relationships. So it took a lot of unpacking of that relationship to figure out how it had affected me. And that is the point I'm trying to get across here. Figuring out I wouldn't say cause, but I'd say the basis for the depression. In me personally, it was two very big relationships that had such a large knock-on effect to a problem with, I think, a chemical makeup in my brain. Now, until I'd figured out and clarified in my mind those relationships, I could see all the therapists I wanted, and I wouldn't have got, this far. It was as if I needed a starting point. So the point I'm trying to make with this is I needed a starting point, which really helped me. I could have stumbled through it and been zigzagging all over the place and possibly gone round in circles as well without a starting point. Once I had that starting point, I could start to move kind of in a direction. Obviously, I'm still all over the place, but I still had that starting point that I believe, and worked for me. At that point, it made things easier to figure out. Still on the journey, still a rocky road with many ups and downs, but I was still on that journey. And then that allowed, as I figured out and clarified my self-protective tendencies, it made it easier to figure out where they were coming from. And that's how it feels to me. It's this jigsaw puzzle, massive, massive jigsaw puzzle. And you get this starting point, you get your first piece, and then it's trying to interlock. And if you will, kind of make this story and pave a road that helps you move forward. So that's that. Finding a starting point for me was probably the most important thing. The next really big realization that I made, which was a huge step forward for me, is self-worth. So I had, in my developing years, unconventional relationships, shall we say, with my parents. One product of those types of unconventional relationships is that it caused me to not love myself. And then the knock-on from that is a complete lack of self-worth, leading to a lack of self-confidence, leading to facade after facade after facade, just false front, false front, false front to get me through. I mean, acting was great because everything's a false front. Everything's an act. It was really good. I realized I had to start loving myself. And that brings me to the darkest day last year that really started the ball rolling on recovery. The point at which I really felt I didn't want to carry on. Something in me realized that I would have to at some point tell myself, well done. I'd never done it. I judged everything I did. I argued with myself constantly and was never nice to myself. I realized that that wasn't going to work. So literally, one day when I felt able after that incident, I put a step outside my bed, made a step, and said, well done. One step. And I congratulated myself. And I acknowledged it. I acknowledged what it took to do that. That's been huge. Now, obviously, I still have a lot of self-sabotage on that front, but I consciously try and just pat myself on the back appropriately for when I've done good stuff. And the way in which that propels me to do more good stuff is amazing. I can't tell you how that one thing, that one thing has been so important. So important. And that leads you down a path of I can do it, self-worth, loving yourself, because you can kind of look at something you've done and gone, yeah, it's pretty good. And it just gets better and it builds. You know, it's an exponential growth on that. Now, don't get me wrong. There are lots of bumps in the road. And yesterday, was super dark, and it was the first time since I started taking meds and really walking a path of recovery or really walking a path of management, that I just felt sucked into this black hole. It was like Tom Hanks in Money Pit, when there's a hole in the floor and there's a carpet and he stands on the carpet and it slowly sinks into the floor. But it wasn't my feet going first, it was kind of my back going first into a black hole that kind of just sucked me in. And I couldn't do anything, I was completely locked in place. And it kind of stopped where I could still see out, but I was just locked. I was completely locked in place. And I just trudged. One thing I've allowed myself to do as well, I used to really judge if I didn't consider myself to be super productive. And I wasn't. I was unbelievably inefficient in my day-to-day management. But then on the flip side, I would judge myself if I wasn't super efficient. That was really bad for me. I allowed myself to walk slower, take smaller steps, expect smaller things, just tread water, and that was okay. So I think the main thing in this video was finding a starting point for me, and then allowing myself to just do my best. Whatever that was, however far that took me in the day, however far that moved my life forward, doing my best is okay. And I told myself, well done for doing my best. So if you take one thing away from today, if all you can do is put one foot in front of the other and that's it for the entire day, tell yourself well done. Because there's a possibility that tomorrow you may be able to take two. That was really important to me. You know, again, I'm not a healthcare professional. This is just my story. If something resonates with you, I just love that. That's what this channel's for. Whew. Okay, that was a pretty heavy one today. Thank you for watching. Keep your heads up, stay strong, keep moving forward, do the best you can. See you in a couple of days.